Hey everyone, and welcome to 121 in Flux. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we talk about movies on this show. And in this episode, we are catching up on another foreign film from 2017. We are looking at the Japanese film Blade of the Immortal, which is directed by Takashi Miike. He's obviously a very well-known director. He's done a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, this is his 100th film.
Was this his 100th?
100th.
That's too many.
That's a lot, isn't it?
Most directors take a year or two to make a movie.
Yeah,
so,
he does like 2 or 3 a year sometimes.
So most directors don't get even close to 100 because if you're doing one every 2 years, say for 40 years, that's still only getting you to 20.
Yeah.
So, but
it's an insane amount.
It's still he wants to. And obviously, I imagine there's a lot of like quick low budget movies in there to speed.
Yeah.
To rank up these numbers a little bit. I don't imagine he's done 100 films at the size of this one. I feel like this took a long time.
I'm sure that there's not. That would be ridiculous.
I'm sure it's took a long time. But obviously, did 13 Assassins, which is probably the comparable one to this. But he also did Audition. He did Itchy the Killer. Bunch of stuff. Like I say, there's 100 of them. I'm not going to name all of them.
Yeah, you'll have heard of some of them.
Yeah, but obviously it's mostly Japanese stuff.
Yes.
So almost, maybe even entirely Japanese. I know Tarantino was in one which is partly English, but I don't think that really was quite.
I wouldn't know for sure what it's classed as.
Yeah, but hey. So this is a samurai film. We'll start spoiler free as we do, and then we'll give you a warning before spoilers somewhere in the middle. This is a film about an immortal samurai who ends up working with this girl whose parents were killed by this evil samurai who wants to basically go around the land and like shut down every other like type of fighting style, all the dojos, all the other training classes. No, they're all defunct, and mine is the only one that can be used now. I want to be in charge. Everyone's going to fight like me. And she hires this immortal samurai as essentially a bodyguard or / warrior. And you get something, I'm going to say there's a little bit of that whole Logan / Last of Us kind of disgruntled warrior,
becoming a father figure without necessarily meaning to.
Yeah, then the girl who's like, about that age where she's like 13, 14, and she's
kind of a badass.
Kind of a badass. Or, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call her badass, but she's got that thing where she's got that. Maybe some of the ideals that the adults have lost, where sometimes she makes sense in a way that the adults will never get to.
It's got a spunky attitude.
Yeah. But it's that old argument where, if the 6-year-old version of yourself could like see what you are now, would they criticize you for it? Yeah. And they probably would.
And of course, in this case, it's heightened even more because, as you say, it's an immortal warrior. So he's lived a bit longer.
Yeah, not insanely long. But
longer. No. That's pretty quickly is how long, but enough that you can see the jadedness setting in.
Yeah, because it mentions that it's 70 years later, and he was maybe 30 when that first scene happened. So he's conceivably in the age range that someone could live to, but obviously he should be a frail old man who can barely move at this point. Instead, he's samurai man. But hey, so not quite that. What I thought was funny actually is there is another immortal we meet eventually in the film who's 800 years old, which happens to be the same age as Darla on the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
That got that way early.
I'm not gonna lie, when I was watching the movie and he said he was 800 years old, I immediately went, "That's my reference."
Oh, I'll tell you that one because I'm pretty sure that the crone who we see early on as well, she says she's 800 as well.
Or maybe it's her. Whoever was 800 years old, as soon as they said 800, I was like, that's Darla's age. I'm having that reference.
Yeah, easy enough.
But so basically, there's a sort of flashback in black and white at the start, and we have this sort of tragedy with him. We'll get into that more in spoilers, but this mysterious old woman who's referred to as the crone, some mystical, otherworldly person in a robe.
She just kind of appears here and there.
Gives him bloodworms which make him immortal and basically always heals. It's kind of like Wolverine style healing, except you kind of see like the sort of like strings of blood like sort of connecting again. So
it's a pretty cool effect actually.
So we cut 70 years later, and that's when we get introduced to the main plot with the girl and this evil sort of clan of samurai led by Anotsu, who's the sort of the big bad of the film. And it becomes a bit of a hunt. It's actually got a very kind of almost video game-esque kind of structure to it, where it almost feels like boss fight after boss fight. There's you kind of split it into sections where, like, oh, he's fighting the guy that's got the heads on his shoulders. That's the hedgehog guy.
Yeah.
I'm being very descriptive here. I'm not going to remember all these names, but the hedgehog guy's got a pretty cool look. And then there's like, it's like boss after boss after boss. And then, the plot kind of... And that's not to say that it's not got a plot that's storing through it as well. It does, but it feels very...
Yeah, it's got a very solid revenge plot overarching it.
Yeah.
I think the boss fight symptom that you mentioned there is a case of this. Obviously, this is adapted from a manga, which was longer running than just a movie, and it feels like, they were the ends of big arcs.
I actually don't have a problem with it. If that sounded like a complaint, I didn't really mean it to be.
I didn't necessarily mean it as a it's a negative, just as a critique, I suppose.
Because I'm not against a simple structure or a very simple plot where it is kind of a case of getting through and just going up the ranks until you get to the big bad at the end. Like, I don't have a problem with that.
It can work.
It kind of leaves that a little bit in the last third. It kind of like goes in a different direction for a little bit until it does get to this kind of the big final fight. Which is maybe where I think it maybe stumbles in its pacing a little bit, because the film's 2 hours and 20 minutes long.
Yes.
So it's pretty lengthy, and I do think you probably could have cut it down a little bit. Maybe.
Oddly, I feel like you could go either way. I feel like it's in an awkward middle ground where you could cut down quite easily, or there are ideas that you could expand upon and go bigger and actually give them more weight.
You could do that. I think my instinct was to cut certain things, like certain...
Yeah, there's a whole plot point where I can go, all right, just slash that.
Yeah, I feel like you could have just focused on the girl wanting revenge and him being the big bad. There's a whole other thing that's introduced later on that leads to some interesting fights and some interesting dilemmas, but like it does feel less developed than everything else.
It does. I think we might be thinking of the same thing as well.
It sounds like we might be. But yeah, but obviously let's get to the positives though. The action is very good.
Oh, it's fantastic stuff, yeah.
And obviously you have the added little element of supernatural, or if you want to call it supernatural, but the fact that he's immortal, and if he will utilize that in combat. He will cut off his own hand because he knows he can reattach it to get out of a bind.
I would say almost to a fault, in that he rarely actually wins on pure skill.
Oh yeah, I think he actually technically dies in every single fight.
Yeah,
and he almost always wins because the other opponent thinks he's dead. And then he comes back from the grave and he's like, ah!
Very much, I feel like that is supposed to be part of the theme is that, in the earliest section, before he is immortal, he gets through there pretty good. He's pretty solid.
Oh, yeah.
And it feels like once we cut ahead, it's maybe he coasts by on his ability, where he kind of like, well, I don't really need to try all that hard. I can kind of just get through anything.
Oh, well, I mean, that kind of ties into the whole... The theme of the whole movie is just learning to want to live again and not, not giving up anymore. Having a new reason to live, because obviously he has this tragedy in his past, and he is the jaded, disgruntled guy, which is why it really reminds me of Last of Us in a lot of ways.
No, I can see it.
And Rin, at first it's a very sort of antagonistic relationship, but over the course of the film, she cares about him more than he cares about her, and you kind of expect that by the end it's going to shift in the obvious way. But that's definitely a big part of the film. Is he if anything, he's sick of living and he wants to die, but he can't. That's kind of the core idea of his character in this. But maybe by the end, since it's a movie and people have arcs, maybe he'll actually want to live. And that's kind of
no spoilers, of course.
Yeah, no spoilers. I feel like I'm saying things though, where it's obviously what they're going to do with the plot.
I feel like it's such tried and tested, just story beats that as soon as you say, okay, this is the setup, you kind of go, okay, I see where it's going. And that's not a criticism. That's storytelling. Good storytelling, you can often see the direction it's going to go in because that's what it's supposed to do.
I mean, arguably, it's maybe a little bit derivative of everything else that's ever done this.
Sure,
I think. I think you can say, it's set up properly, and it is set up properly, but does it do anything new to it, really? Does it bring something to the table?
In terms of the storytelling, I would say probably not. I'd say where it does set itself apart is its visual flair.
Yeah.
I think that's its strongest element in that sense. It takes a very simple and solid plot, don't get me wrong, but it makes it look great, and that's that's the draw.
Yeah, honestly, I think the simplicity is key. That's why I'm saying I'd have cut it down a little bit and cut out the extra stuff, because I think the simplicity of, alright, we got past that boss, who's the next boss? And then we're kind of, because we see them all at the start of the film as a group, but then we just sort of meet them one by one throughout the film, and like I was always like, there's always the next one. What's the trick with this? What's the gimmick with this one? Well, you know, again, like a video game boss, where okay, what is their extra power? What is their extra trick? What's their weapon that they use?
Yeah, a lot of unique looking weapons in this movie.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that stuff going on. But I mean, I usually start with asking the question after the premise, and it's kind of clear at this point, I suppose. But Connor, did you enjoy Blade of the Immortal?
Like you say, it's pretty clear. Yeah, I did. Obviously, it's not perfect, as we've already established, but yeah, it's pretty damn good. I assume you more or less agree.
No, yeah, I enjoyed it as well. Like I say, I've got criticisms here or there, and I think it's a shame actually that I had that sort of like, oh, this extra plot that's kind of making it a bit longer in the second half, because I think for the first like 30, even maybe the first hour, close to an hour, the first half.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I'm loving this. Like I was I was really into it, and then it just got a little bit long-winded. And I actually do think this is. I mean, I know some people don't agree with me on this, and I like 13 Assassins, but I do think that final fight that lasts about 40 minutes goes on a bit too long.
Yeah, I'm gonna fight you on that one.
I would have just just simplified that and trimmed it down a bit.
Yeah, I'll fight you on that one. I love that movie.
And I like it a lot. Like, I'm not disputing that, and I've not seen it since it came out. I should watch it again. But I just remember feeling that final fight was just a long ass fight.
Oh, that's fair. To be fair, it's been a while since I've watched it. Maybe, and I've only seen it once as well. Maybe I'll change my mind upon a repeat view. Maybe we should do that soon and re-establish how that's gone.
Yeah, we could do it at some point. But yeah, but that's basically the extent of my complaints, and I think, because one of the, again, I'll refer to him as bosses, that's interesting in the second half, who's kind of set up as the I guess the second to Big Bad. Not in the sense that he's actually related to him and he's second in command, just in the sense that of the movie's plot, he's the next biggest figure who poses the biggest threat. He kind of comes in and he almost like takes away the main threat from the Big Bad. It actually almost steals the Big Bad's thunder. Does
undermine it a little, yeah.
And then when it comes back to the Big Bad, I'm like, okay, this is fine, and the dramatic points you're making are good. But I don't really see him as the threat in the fight anymore. I feel like we've already made the big point of the danger, if that makes sense.
Agreed, and it takes a little bit of weight out of the final fight.
It does. There was one of the funny elements I liked about the final fight, though, is that there was so many dead bodies around at that point as they started slipping on the blood when they were trying to fight, and I thought that was actually a really funny little idea.
It's something you don't see like at all, but it makes sense.
Like not in a super comical. They weren't playing it for goofiness. It was more just frustration that they couldn't get their footing right, and it was cracking me up.
No, it was cool. Overall, I'm pretty positive. I think one of the strongest elements to the movie is its characters. I think they're very likable.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think Manji's likable. He's likable grunt who doesn't want to talk to the girl, but he kind of goes along with it. And he sort of, obviously his heart becomes clear as it goes on. I think Rin's very likable, as you say. She's very, very spunky, I think was the word you used. I think they make a good pair. And Otsu has a really he's the big bad, Otsu, and I think he's got a very unique presence. I almost even the robes that he's wearing, they feel different to everyone else's. Almost like there's a lighter colour. He's got it's like a teal robe he's wearing compared to everyone else.
It is, and a big part of his motivation is being different and making that acceptable. And so it's kind of like, okay, he's clearly the villain and he's doing things wrong, but his motivations are coming from a place you can understand.
His motivations are actually, at their core,
relatively progressive.
Yeah, they're bizarrely noble in a weird way, even if everything he's doing to achieve them is just flat out evil as shit. But there is elements in there where it's not just a completely absurd, because he wants to unite everyone under one thing, which is okay, right? There's a noble goal in there, and again, he wants to make being different be acceptable. Again, is noble enough.
And he doesn't want to unite them for evil purposes or anything like that.
But he is going around murdering people, and because I don't know if it's a spoiler to say at the start of the movie when they murder Rin's father, he then just says to all his his bosses, his sub bosses that we're going to have through the film. He basically says to them, "I'll do with you what you want with the wife."
Yeah.
And it just leaves them to, and it's implied that there's a lot of rape going on once he leaves the room. We don't see any of it. We don't get that. Although we do have one of the big bads comes and just hugs Rin and tells her he don't listen to it. But it's very creepy. You can tell that he's kind of grooming or whatever's going on. It's creepy stuff. But yeah, so yeah, there's dark elements to it as well. It's not just
there is
this noble thing. Yeah, and I think the movie's even saying something there where you have to. It's fine to have the noble cause, but you have to have humanity while you're doing it. Otherwise, it's pointless.
Yeah, it's ends justify the means sort of situation.
Yeah,
it's
but
like, do they? We're not here. Yeah,
no,
exactly.
They don't. I think my favorite way of address or my favorite way of actually sort of saying that actually comes from Battlestar Galactica. There's a line in that. It's not just enough to survive; you have to be worthy of survival.
Yeah, fair enough.
I like that sentiment. So, yeah, is it worth it if you have to become a homicidal maniac to pull it off? Probably not. But yeah, so that's the gist of the plot. I suppose we'll give this the spoiler warning and we can start diving into it.
But clearly, we recommend watching it if you haven't already.
Oh yeah, if you like samurai movies, if you like this type of action movie, I think there's no reason not to. So yeah, but yeah, so full spoilers for Blade of the Immortal. We have, like I say, we have all these several bosses. I think I typically remember them by their look and how they fight more than anything else.
Well, in typical sub-boss fashion, they don't actually have that much character, these ones. They are down to their stylistic elements.
Exactly. Which is why I think it works when it's just been as simple as possible, because it is just about, okay, here's a really good... And this is the thing, if the fighting was boring, this movie would completely fall flat, but it's not. And because of that, it's exciting when they show me a new character he's going to fight, because I'm like, okay, what's the trick this
how
time?
are they doing this one? Yeah, exactly.
Because the first one he really fights is the guy with the heads in his... Because one of the heads in his shoulder turns out to be Rin's mother.
Yes.
It's a really dark moment, and because you think he's not taking the job, but he's actually he's followed her with her, and he's there, and he jumps out, and again, like we said, he actually gets stabbed, and the bad guy thinks he's won. Yeah. And he pulls off his mask, and because you see he's kind of like burned underneath the samurai mask, but he pulls it off, and he's about to kill Rin, and that's when Manji jumps out and does his thing. But
sword through the chest, I believe that one was
relatively simple. This one,
yeah,
relatively simple. And then we get some more advanced things. We get the hedgehog dude, and I say that because his hair's all kind of like spiky but backed away, and he's got a mask on. He's got just like the bottom half of his mask on. I was getting real Sonic the Hedgehog vibes from this guy. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
that's what all I could think every time I looked at him. His fight was good. Although I really liked when he fights the other Immortal. Another Immortal shows up, and this really sets up the main themes of the movie, because the other Immortal is like, he's like, he's had like 3 wives, he's seen everyone he's loved die, he's tired, he wants to die. He's basically picking a fight with Manji because he wants to die.
Yeah.
That's what his hope is. And he even weakens Manji. He gives him this like rare poison that kind of affects the bloodworms.
It poisons the bloodworms, yeah.
And it kind of makes him not work properly for a while. They eventually kind of
kick back in, but they are still slower than they were before.
Yeah. It was making me think of something like Spider-Man 2, where he kind of loses his mojo for a while, and then like once he sort of has the will to fight again, it kind of all kicks back in.
It kind of is that, especially when you get to the scene later on where the crone shows back up, where he's like coming, staring at his hand, going, "Come on, bloodworms, do your thing." Yeah,
because he's about to get attacked, and he's like, "I need my hand back. I need to grab that sword that's next to my hand, but I'm not attached to my hand."
Yeah, and it's this realization that he does actually want to survive that actually, allows it to happen.
Yeah. But I love the Immortal fight because, I mean, obviously at the end of it, he cuts off all the guy's limbs and even his legs. He's just like a head and a torso, just like nailed to the tree.
Yeah.
When he's talking to him as he's dying, but I like that before that though. It cuts to him at one point, and he's just kind of like suspended above him, and he's got like 9 like swords through him, and it's just like it's just this like just a barrage
fantastic
of blades. Yeah, it's great. It looks good. But it's I feel like this movie nails being just that little bit over the top without going over too far.
It's never comical.
Yeah.
Which it would be really easy to do with some of these ideas and premises, but it's treated with just enough weight that it's kind of the characters are always taking it seriously and keeping it straight.
Yeah. And I think the relationship between Manji and Rin gets really good as well. I think it's after the hedgehog fight. That sounds really weird to say it, but after the hedgehog fight, where they have this kind of heart-to-heart where she kind of like confronts him and says, "I look like your sister, don't I?" Because it's obviously in the flashback at the start of the movie, it's his sister who gets killed. And it's in a bit of a face-off. It's a very... And this is the thing. When you're watching that opening scene and the bad guy at the start, he's got her and he's going to let her, give me the thing, I'll give you your sister back. And then he kills his sister. And then obviously it leads to this big fight where he's going through an army of men to get to him. And he just about does it, but he's dying in the process. I'm like, okay, so come the end of the movie, we're going to have Rin in that situation. We're going to have him in this standoff again. And he's going to do something differently. Because of course he is. Because that's what this is.
That's how storytelling works.
But it was here where she kind of confronts him about it, and it was actually like it turned into kind of a sweet scene where he get kind of angry at her because she kind of tries to manipulate him into like feeling sad because she calls him brother.
Yeah, and then he corrects it. It's like, no, it was Big Brother.
That's what she always called me. Yeah. And then he does because there's not. I mean, there's a score, but there's not a whole lot of this particular. There's a cue that plays here. It's a really nice little emotional theme, and it never comes back again until the very end.
Yeah.
So it really nicely just ties these two scenes together. This and the ending. The ending, of course, being after all the fighting's happening, and after Anatsu's been put down, and again, in a very sacrificial moment as well for Manji, who realizes he's about to kill, because Rin's running up to attack him from behind, but he knows that Anotsu's good enough that he's going to turn around.
There's no problem. So he just jumps in the way and takes the sword in the side.
But Joe, I like as well. I like that Rin has her own little journey where it starts off as purely as revenge, and then it kind of becomes, no, I'm not just going to kill because revenge. I'm better than that, and she kind of criticizes everyone else because of that. And eventually, Manji kind of says, well, what am I here for then? Like, what am I doing? What have you hired me for? And she's like, no, you can kill people, but only if they try to kill me.
And then this whole army just like back away a little bit.
So yeah, there was a neat little heroic side to that there, and it was the idea that she's not got jaded yet, and she still sees the ideals, and she kind of like reminds him of his humanity. It's very neat, very very touching. And of course, the theme comes back in as she thinks he's dying, because she actually leaves at one point. She actually wanders off away from him and leaves him a note, because she basically realizes he just kind of wants to die, and she's not going to lead him to his death by helping her. So she actually leaves him. But of course, by this point in the movie, he cares about her. So by this point, he actually goes running after her.
Goes off searching.
Yeah. And the movie ends, of course, with that great little moment where she calls him Big Brother, and then his eyes just open, and then the guitars kick in as we hit the credits. No fear of leaving on the badass moment. It's very. This is going to sound like a weird thing to compare it to, but it's very the end of Scenario B of Resident Evil 2.
Straight over my head, and probably quite a lot of other people's.
For anyone who's a fan of Resident Evil 2, finish Scenario B. Leon turns to the camera and says, "We've got to take down Umbrella," and the guitars kick in. It reminded me of that. It's the first thing my mind went to.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
But it's a fist pump emote, because the whole thing is that it's reminding him that he actually wants to live. That he doesn't just want to die. There's those reasons to actually want to live. Yeah. And the fact that he wants to live and then make die anyway because he's been he's sacrificed himself for her. But then that so that final moment of him opening his eyes, it's like, no, they won.
He's still around, because he keeps saying there at the end, it's like, no, I'm not going till she's gone.
Yeah.
And he lives up to that quite literally at the end.
Yeah, so that's good. Now, obviously, what we've kind of brushed over is the other plot. I'll say the other plot. It does tie in, of course, because there's a whole thing throughout the movie where Anatsu is like basically making a deal with the head of the Shogun to adopt his martial arts and adopt his training, and throughout the film, the representative there is like, yeah, we've agreed, and I've talked to the other heads, and they've all agreed. But it's all a ruse, because they actually end up killing all of his disciples at the end, which is one of the things that kind of deflates Anotsu a little bit.
Yeah, I
felt, because I thought when we got to the end, and whoever was left was going to be fighting side by side with him, and instead we had this thing where Manji and Anotsu actually had to fight side by side against an army.
I get that the point is that, okay, we separate him from all the disciples just to show he kind of doesn't need them. It's supposed to elevate him as a threat, being like he's powerful enough to hold his own without them.
Instead, it feels like he got easily duped.
does, yeah.
It just because it turned out to be all this plot, and we meet these other group. Because at first I thought they were just more assassins of his. This group of characters in the middle. We sort of like we find out like after Manji's killed a few of his disciples, we find out that they think there's been like 10 deaths, and I'm like, did we miss some? Are they telling us that he's been killing more off camera, like this building?
But then he's clearly quite confused as well.
Yeah, and then Manji's like, wait, I've only killed like 3. What's going on? And it turns out there's this other group of assassins who are killing others and making it look like it's him. And to be fair, the reason he's not actually bad, but later on when they say, well, we don't want him to know we exist because it makes him think there's only one enemy. Like, you'll be surprised when there's multiple.
It's solid reasoning.
For instance, is this, we have obviously the head one's Shira, who we deal a lot with, and then there's the dude with goggle things and sexy blonde, right? Those are the other two. There's the trio. But Shira's the one who we kind of properly get to know, because they do kind of team up, and they think that Anatsu is like traveling to the headquarters to talk about this, takeover of him taking over all the dojos and stuff, and they think he's dressing as a woman to like disguise because he knows people are going to be out for him. So they go hunting, thinking that there's a woman that's actually him, and they think they found him, and it turns out not to be the case. It's just some random woman who was holding something that looked like his big blade and rapping.
Yeah, well, no, I think that the idea was that she was hired by.
Oh sure, yeah.
Anatsu's men, so that because there was a big wooden carving of his unique blade.
Yeah, no, you're right. My mind's slipping, but
so it's like, there was a trap, wasn't it? It's just like, okay.
Yeah, it was a decoy, but this just kind of pisses Shira off, and there's someone else with them. Again, that it was there to like, ambush them or whatever, and Manji goes off fighting him, and Shira's left there, and Shira is basically,
you took the money, you're dead.
Yeah, and not only is he going to kill her, he's going to rape her. And actually, in Rin's there, and she like jumps out, and she's like, "No, you're not doing this." And she tries to stop him, and he flat out punches Rin in the face like 3 times.
Yeah,
it is super uncomfortable to watch. And then just as he's about to really like hurt her, that's when I don't even know what you call those big things in the chains, the big blades in the chains. Maybe your
I
Japanese.
did know a few months ago when I was playing Neo quite a lot, but it slipped my mind.
My Japanese weaponry knowledge is not as up to speed. Yeah. No, so if he does that and he cuts off his hand, so she was pretty pissed about that. So Shira's then get a grudge, and that sets up Shira as this other antagonist who seems to have his own vendetta against our main heroes, which is fine, but it does kind of feel like, okay, now he feels like a bigger threat than Anotsu does, because Anotsu's not even like trying to do anything to them. He's just kind of trying to avoid them. He doesn't care.
Well, I mean, he stands 1-to-1 with Rin multiple times and doesn't do anything. Just kind of gives her a speech.
If anything, he just kind of respects that, one day she's going to keep training, and once she's ready to come and face him as an opponent, he might respect her because she's actually put the work in for it.
Yeah, and it feels like when she's ready, he'll take her one-on-one, like properly.
Yeah.
Like, because that's a big thing for Rin at the end when the army are coming after Anatsu. She's like, no, you're supposed to be samurai. Come on, this is supposed to be fair fighting, not just overwhelming him.
Yeah. But now we have this guy who's got this vendetta now, and he does become this problem where he shows up, and we get big fights. Him and his men, like, this is the fight where Manji cuts off his own hand and then reconnects it to to win the fight because he's trapped at one point. We have all this stuff, and then eventually Shira does get Rin, and he has her in the position kind of like what his sister was in the past, where he's got her and he's like, "Nah, put your weapons down, or I'm going to kill her." And of course we know that he has like that extra blade, and he's because we saw it earlier on. He picked it up because actually there's this funny running gag throughout the film where she's trying to Rin's trying to learn to throw a lot of blades. Like she's got them all on her knuckles, and she throws them, and she's really bad at it. And at the end of the movie, or towards the end of the movie, when everyone's having the standoff, the army's there, she goes like that to throw them and to get like the army, and one of them goes into Manji's back, and he's just like, my back, and he turns and like, you're still terrible at that.
Yeah. Maybe she gets all the rest of them, though.
Oh, sure. He still got stabbed, though.
It does, but it's fine. He'll heal.
Yeah, it's fine because he's an immortal. If this was anyone else, like...
Yeah, that would be not a great thing to do. I agree. No, but the thing is, with this plot, I feel like, other than this bit at the end here, you could kind of mostly cut the whole thing out.
Yeah, I mean, and you could almost just give this moment to Anatsu in some way. You could just reshape it a little bit,
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. Like, I get the point where she wants to team up with them, and then she learns that even people who she think share her goals that she should be with can be awful people too. And then by contrast, Anatsu, who obviously she hates, has some modicum of honor and respect. Yeah. And I get that part of the journey, but it feels like a lot of time for not that much.
Yeah, it's like, I understand why they're doing it. I understand that just making Anatsu get like maybe cowardly towards the end and grab her to try and save himself would maybe be a betrayal of what you want to do with that character. I do get that. I don't know if it achieves that much though, doing it this way.
I agree. I feel like this is something that was in the manga that was obviously longer running, and when they were adapting it, they've kind of put it in anyway rather than reworking it in a different way.
Mm.
And it does suffer a little for that, which is why I said early on that you could go the other way and make this longer and expand this out almost into 2 films, even if you had to, sort of thing, and kind of do this whole plot and actually build this a bit more naturally. But instead, I feel like with it this amount, you should probably just cut it out entirely.
Yeah, I'm more in favour of that. I think it could just go.
I agree. That was my first thought. It was a possibility.
Because it doesn't, like, I mean 2 movies could be great. Maybe if they expanded it could be fine. It would justify itself by doing that. But for me, I was just like, this is just like a tangent in the movie, or it's just adding in this extra element that I don't necessarily need, and it's deflating the main kind of like threat and purpose.
It is.
Yeah. I think you just have, like, you play the same beats, and you maybe have the encounter with She-Ra, the first one, and just have them fight there, and have him win a fight right there and then. And then, and Ren still realizes after that he is just wanting to die, and that's what makes her go off.
I think the way you do the bit at the end where he's holding Rin, I think you give that to the shogunate role. Like, you give them to them, and because they're kind of filling that cowardly role of we're just sending a mass army to get this one man. You give it to them of being like, no, they're trying to battle for their own lives against even Onatsu as well as Manji.
Yeah, maybe the head shogun guy that we see a lot of.
Yeah, I feel like maybe that works a bit better. Possibly.
But yeah, I mean, it's not a huge issue. Like, it's not like it doesn't break the film by any means. It's just I kind of felt like it did bloat it a little bit and deflate it a little bit at the same time.
It does. It ends up feeling like, okay, there's 20-30 minutes here that I don't really need.
Yeah, I think it could have been a much tighter. If we got to, because that's the other thing. There's the other disciple character who like tries to assassinate Manji, and she fails. Maki,
yeah,
she fails, and she's actually about to do it, and then she actually backs down because Rin kind of talks her out of it and kind of realizes that she's got morals, basically, is the thing. And
she has a bit of a moment where she's like, whenever she's fighting, she kind of just gets lost in the moment. She doesn't really think about what she's doing, but when she stops and looks at it, the horror of all the death actually kind of weighs on her.
And the fight was kind of cool. There was some like sort of playing like around like scaffolding and stuff. Like,
yeah, through some buildings.
And it was a fun enough fight. And her big kind of payoff is that she shows up to help Anatsu against the army. In the end, she has this big entrance, and then at one point she dies, and that kind of spurs on him as a bit of motivation. But I feel like, yeah, you could probably just cut her to like, it shouldn't really add that much to the whole overall plot.
No, I agree. Again, there's like with the plot, there's small things that it adds to Rin's character, but there are probably easier ways of doing it with what you've already got. Just tie in a bit tighter and stop it. I feel
like you either cut her or you cut She-Ra. But if you keep She-Ra, you cut down his plot considerably and just have it be one encounter. And whatever you do is you basically give the moments that worked in the other one that were cutting to the same fight. Yeah, like, you have that moment with Maki where Rin steps in front and like goes to defend him. It says, no, I can't let him die. Just do that in the other one.
She-Ra,
yeah. You just swap that over. You could just do it in both. I say both, either or, you know what I mean? Not both.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily matter who she's saying it to.
Yeah.
The point is she has that moment.
Yeah. And then he has the moment where he's like, if you do that again, I quit. Like, he's not... Yeah. And again, that's the first sign that he cares that something bad might happen to her. Like,
yeah, exactly. He's like, no, his point is, I'm a bodyguard. I'm supposed to be the one dying for you. You're not supposed to be saving me.
But it's funny, actually. It goes back to your point about how he's relying on the fact that he's immortal, because he's like, no, I was lured into a false sense of security, and then I was going to strike. Because his tactic now is to just make them think they're winning, believably, because he'll be like looking dead, and then just win from there.
Just get them when their back's turned.
Yeah,
it's quite dishonourable, actually, given a lot of the themes of the movie.
Yeah, which is what makes his sacrifice at the end really work, because it's not that at all. He runs in and takes the hit.
Exactly.
So as much as we've kind of like critiqued the second half a little bit, and we've said, oh, we'd cut a couple of things and condense it, because I do think you could get this down to about an hour 40, hour 50, and it'd be a really tight action movie. I think as is, it's a little bit long, but the journey still works. And I think even though they deflate the villain just a touch by these other choices that were made in the second half of the film, because I think in the first half he's actually quite formidable. He feels like a big thing to get to.
Oh, definitely.
And I actually kind of like that he doesn't even care about them. He's not even concerned. I actually kind of like that in a villain. Not in every villain, but I like it in some villains where he thinks they're beneath him. He thinks he's not even... Because you almost want that smug look to be wiped off his face when he realises, oh no, shit, this is actually something I have to deal with. They're a threat. That's the exciting part of that. And I think there's an extent... I don't think that moment ever really comes, because...
I don't think it does, because by the time he's confronting them for real, it's like, well, there's an army of other people to be afraid of.
Yeah, he's already kind of had the rug pulled out from under him from other characters. So
yeah, he's literally on the run when Rin runs into him at this point for the ending.
Yeah, so our main characters don't get that moment, therefore it's not as satisfying for us, I don't think. So that'd be my complaint with that. But the emotional beats with the main characters, who we really like, still play really well. Like I say, that final minute where he's dying and she's crying for him to not die, and calling him Big Brother, and the music's playing and he wakes up. That completely works. I was completely on board.
Oh, definitely. I think that's the thing. As much as we've said, it's a bit long, you can cut these things. When it lands, it really lands.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of a shame that the second half's just a little bit long. And it's all in the second half as well. I think the first hour, perfect. Yeah. And then it goes just a little bit bloated. So no. But I guess we're wrapping up.
I think we're pretty much done. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you want to mention before we get to the ratings?
No. I'll just say, going in, I was not prepared for the amount of dismembered hands.
A lot of dismembered hands.
A lot of hands flying around.
A lot of hands. Shira's got this blade, this really rough-looking blade.
It's like a saw. It's like a bread knife on one side. One side's a regular sword. One side's like a saw. It's pretty cool.
It's pretty rough. There's a lot of weapons as well, actually, which is, it's not just because he's got this cool thing where he's got two katanas, but they kind of one of the handles come off and then he can connect it to get he basically, imagine you've got a lightsaber and then Darth Maul puts two of them together to make his lightsaber. That's basically what he does with his katana.
Yeah, pretty much.
So he's got a dual katana at one point. Well, multiple points.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Anatsu's axe sword, I'm gonna call it.
It's a really heavy blade, yeah.
Yeah, but it's curved at the top, but not like a smile. It's actually curved in an axe shape, but it's still a sword all the way down. Because
Rin tries to go grab it at one point and she can't lift it up.
yeah, but he's just swinging it around, no problem.
Yeah. So that's the whole thing. There's a lot of cool weapons. Like we said, there's the ones in the chains, and then there's various other things.
And as well as just the weapons looking cool, which obviously helps. They're all used in pretty unique ways in the fights. Mm-hmm. What's her name? Maki's staff that splits into three pieces as she's fighting using it. It's also used pretty cool.
Yeah. So action solid, visual style is very good. Cast are very good, I think. Characters are very good.
Especially Rin. I think when she's getting angry and the emotions there, it really lands.
Yeah, there's a moment towards the end before the fighting really starts where she basically just tells everyone to shut up for a second, and it's an entire army of the Shogun, and you've also got Anatsu, and you've got Manji, and everyone just stops. Yeah, everyone actually stops. And the funny thing is, she's so commanding that you don't even question that they'll stop for her.
Exactly. She has real presence and really just commands the screen when she's on it and doing these big moments.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a second movie with her, actually. Because this is actually the one thing that... This isn't a disappointment, it's just that my expectation was different. For some reason, I remember the trailer implying that she had more training, where she was going to be more of a fighter by the end.
Oh, okay.
Maybe this is just
I'll
me
be
making
honest,
up memories.
I never watched the trailer. I just kind of knew the premise, knew the director. I went, yeah, I'm in.
No, I saw the trailer and I remember just having the idea that it was going to be like he's training her throughout the film, so by the end she's also a fighter.
She never quite gets. I mean, she's kind of trying, doing little bits, but she's never at the same level as anyone else.
Yeah, so I mean, that could always be a sequel if they ever want to do one.
Hey, I'm down for it.
Yeah, let's train her. Because it's a couple of years past, she'll be more of like a 16, 17-year-old, but then it'll be a bit more believable that she can hold her own against the adults and stuff. So
no, I'm down for it.
Yeah. All right, I suppose we'll get to ratings then. So what do you rate Blade of the Immortal?
I'm just about going to give it the 8. I was thinking the 7.5. It was kind of in between because of just those bits that drag. And but the action's great, visual style, all the things we've been talking about that we really loved. It's just enough to give it the 8, I think.
Yeah, I think I'll give it the 8 as well. I think that first hour I was thinking 9 as I was watching it.
Oh yeah. I was like 9. If this lands the emotions, maybe 9.5. But
I was never going 9.5. I wasn't quite up that high.
Oh, I don't know if it had properly land. It does land, but if it had never faltered from that point and landed as well, I might have done.
Yeah, it just becomes a little bit too bloated in the second half, and that kind of drags it down a little bit. But I'll give it the 8 as well. I think overall I've had quite a happy experience watching it. So, Blade of the Immortal. There you go. This year's hit samurai film. I assume every year has a samurai film. Japan makes a lot of them.
I mean, they're ever popular, aren't they?
Mm. Hey, say what you want. They never died out like the Western. At least don't think they did. Maybe they did. Maybe there's like a gap of like 70s and 80s. Because there's a lot from the 50s and 60s I know about. I don't know a whole lot about the 70s and 80s and 90s samurai movies. Maybe there was a big, huge gap.
No, it's true. And to be fair, Westerns have been making a comeback in the last few years.
That's true.
Not quite the heavy hitters, obviously, that they were, but there's more of them around now than there was, 10 years ago.
Here's a question. What do you prefer, samurai films or Westerns?
Oh, samurai films.
I do too.
Don't get me wrong, there are some great Westerns as well, but if I'm going to pick, then I'm going to go samurais.
That said, I will say that Once Upon a Time in the West beats the majority of samurai films. I said the majority, not all. I'm not saying it's better than Seven Samurai. I want to make that clear.
I've not seen that one, so I can't judge.
Oh, I love it so much. It's a fantastic film.
Okay.
And of course, his Man with No Name trilogy is fantastic as well, of course.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. But hey, so that is Blade of the Immortal. So by all means, let us know what you thought of it in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all the usual stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, you can head over to patreon.com/mailedfuzztv. There's a link to that in the description. Otherwise, that is us though. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching TV. Not TV. This is movies.
What are you doing?
I don't know. Like, we record so much. We're doing like TV news next, alright? My mind's wandering. Keep watching movies, guys, and we'll see you next time.